Lately, since most of our development is done in Blazor, um, we decided, okay, how do we create a property editor like really fast? Because if you have seen the documentation for the property editor, and I'm going to show that soon, there are like a few steps, and it kind of takes time to do that in general. So let's create a new project here. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you guys the information for the property editor. So just let me move the zoom bar and this. Basically, for creating your own property editor, you need to create like 4 classes, I think, plus the component to do the rendering. So the first class is the component model, which is like if you have used Xamarin before, it's something like what you will use as view model in general. Then you have the render, and then you have the adapter, which is like the intermediate part. And beside that, you have the class that wraps all of this together, which is the property editor. So as you can see, there are a lot of steps, and the naming is really important. And also where you put it, as we talked with Dave before, the location of the component is not important, but once you put it in one place, it will generate the code behind. So when you move it, and it will look like there is an error that will take a little bit uh, to stop showing in the studio. You can basically delete the bin folder, close the studio, and open it again, or reveal a few times, and it will just be gone. But uh, it it will take you a few minutes the first time, and that's why I'm warning you, because for me it took like 1 hour to figure out that there was no error at all. So, oh, let's see, someone is drawing in my screen. Okay, so this I don't know if I can clear those drawings. Oh, okay. Someone is asking for the link to that page. So let's see the annotations. Can we clear the annotations with all drawings? Yeah, perfect. So we don't want annotations anymore. We want the mouse. Okay, so let's create this property editor. So it's not about this. This next example is not about the property editor itself. It's how you can save time by making a Visual Studio template out of this. And also, it will be nice if I can post, for example, a ticket on Developer Express Support Center, and anyone can vote there. So they might include this template in the Visual Studio templates, because it will be easier to just do right-click, create property editor with all the classes, than implementing all the code yourself. So let's go back to the studio, and this will be with Javier. He always tell me, like, Jose, you put the most explicit names for anything that you write, and maybe it's true. So let's see. Okay, this again will be a Blazor application, XPO. We don't need authentication in this case, and we don't need any module for this demonstration. Okay, so let's reveal this. And I will just create a simple domain object with one property, and then we will go from there. So new item, domain object one. And we just need one property to implement our property editor, so the most simple one. Name. Great. So let's run it at least one time so we have the database and you see how the property editor looks like, and then we will create a new one based again on an HTML component. Also, there are some more complex examples that I want to show, but I'm traveling at the moment. I'm in El Salvador, escaping from Russian winter. But once I'm back to Russia, I have a lot of examples of interactions with blockchain, basically a smart contract interaction. That's what we have been researching in the office lately, because most of the examples out there, like 99% of the examples are React, and whatever you can do with React, you can do with Blazor. So we have almost all the implementations that they have in React for a smart contract. We have them in Blazor also. So if you're interested on the Ethereum virtual machine, smart contract integration, and blockchain in general, just add the notifications in the YouTube channel, and you will see when we post something about the blockchain. Okay, we have our application. I'm just going to create an object. This is going to be Dave in this case. I use myself in the other in the other example, so I need a different name. Okay, so let's go to the documentation, and I will show you how I do it because I've done this like so many times that when you start reading, it takes a while. So I will show you the trick how to do it really fast. So you have to scroll down, and the first thing that you need to create in general is the render. So I will copy this code and add a component here. And this will be, I will leave it like that. And let's replace the code with the code that we have from Developer Express. And let me check just the name that they use for the component input render .razor. So great. So right now we have the Blazor component, and as you can see, is everything inside of the component. The C# code is in the component, and the HTML is in the component. So there are several ways that you can use Razor components. You can use these syntaxes that is C# between HTML, which in general I don't like that much because the IntelliSense doesn't work that well in here, and also Codero sometimes goes crazy, figure out different namespaces. So something that needs to be improved, I guess. But in general, like what I like to do, you can use inherit from a special class, or the easiest trick is you copy the name of this render file, and then you add a new class. So let's add a new class. And name it the same as the render, just add .cs in the end. So as you see, it's grouped in the same as the same file basically. And here the trick is that this class, you should make it partial. So one part is the Razor component and another part is this class. So if you need to write like complex C# code, you better do it on this side, and it will be the same as if you write it in here. But the IntelliSense autocomplete and CodeRush will just work. So that's one of the tricks that I use like all the time. And so far so good. Let's see. We have two files already. So now let's go and copy the adapter. So I will copy this code from here. And the trick here, if you want to make this a template, is that you have to put them in the same file. That's why I created this extra file. So there's no C# code that I want to put there because the example is really simple. So I will just put this part here. Oh, I didn't copy. So let's copy all of this. Paste. And let's move the namespaces to here so they are shared. And remove this, and this is duplicated, so let's remove it. Okay, so far so good. We have in this class, we have already two classes. I mean, in this class file, we have two classes. We have the input adapter and the input render. So we need to add basically two more classes also. So we will add the property editor. And let's copy all of this. And let's paste this here. Let's remove this and just move the namespaces up. We don't need the system namespace, it's already there, so let's delete that. And this already exists. So far so good. Now we have three classes in the same file. And we're missing just one. Let's see, I will mute everyone. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's go up for the first one, and let's copy this. This is basically the class that will go from the subdomain object to the property editors. That is like what you will use as view model in Xamarin in general. So let's copy this. And I didn't copy completely. So copy this one. Let's go back here. And system we don't need, we already have. Let's put this here and delete this little bit of code. And as you can see, we have four classes in the same file. So far, so good. So when you see this in the Solution Explorer, you can see that if you expand this object, you will see that there are four classes here. So it's good because you can go and jump directly. So if you want the input adapter, it will just put the caret there. So we have not finished. I will use this property editor. So let's check the property editor code here. So it's a really simple property editor. It's for the type string. And then it's going to use the input adapter to pass the model, which is the class that holds the value, and pass it to the render. Because if you see the render, it's the same as we did in the column render for the previous example. You have a static method where you return the instance of the control, and this has to be a static method. There is no other way to do it. So you have to follow this pattern anyway. So far so good. We know that this property editor, if we go here, is not the default property editor for the string class. So the property editor is good and it's working, but it will not show anyway because we have not set it to run. So for that, I took a note this morning because I always forget this syntaxes. So let me copy this and let's go to the domain object. And let's put that here. So this is model default to set the property in the model. And then we need to pass the full name of the class, like including the namespace. So let's go here and copy. So this is the namespace. So let's delete all of this. Now let's get the name of the class, which is custom property-ator. Let's put it here. So now here, it will look like almost the same textbook, so you will not notice the difference. So what I will do is just put something else here, so you notice that it's a different implementation than the default one. So let's add basically a div and hello property editor and the front end. And again, if someone has any question, feel free to open the mic or send it in the chat. So let's click here and we'll see our property editor. So see, this is a different textbook. It's an HTML textbook. And there is the div that I added below. So now we have our full property editor implemented. Now let's make it a Visual Studio item template. That's like super easy. That's then changing like every time, every version of Visual Studio, there's a different way to do it. Also the menu where you do it, it changed. So let's go to project and let's see. Hold on. Let's, I think I need to highlight the component I want. And I think I can see the menu from here. If not, let's go to the other menu. No, it's not there anymore. So project, export template. There are some extensions that will add that to your right-click menu. So in this case, we don't want a project template. We want an item template. And the item template will come from this project. So next. And now it's asking me which item I want from that solution. That's why I put all the files, all the classes on the same file, because otherwise you cannot do a template with 4 classes. You need to do 4 templates. So that's why I did that, like put all the same in the same place, so we can use this trick. So now the only thing that I need to do is like input render. Select that because it shows us 1 item, even though there are 4 classes in there plus the render. So which reference I would like to include? In this case, I will not include any reference. I don't need to add any DLL, but maybe my component comes from a DevExpress DLL. But this is basically if you want to include something like with your template. For example, I don't know if you remember, like way like long time ago when you added an XPO object, it added the reference to XPO. So that's the same trick. If you want to include a reference, you can do it right now. But in this case, all the references are already there, so I don't need to include any reference. The name of the template. The template will be XAF Blazor. Like that, because I have like so many templates already that I have done to test and everything. So I will not set an item right now, and also not preview. This is the location where it's going to be. You can go and check. There is a folder there in case all the files needed for that. And then it will import automatically in Visual Studio in general. The import sometimes doesn't happen. Let's cross our finger and hope that it happens. If not, we need to close all the studios and just restart, open a new instance after all of them are closed, and then it will show. So let's finish. Okay, so here we have the template. If you want to distribute that template, you can just put it in this folder in someone else's computer, and it will just work after they close the studio and they open it again. We have a question from a friend of the channel and a friend of the meetup, JP. So JP, the component that I show in HTML, it will take the DevExpress theme as long as you use the same CSS classes. So for that, if you go and find an example from Bootstrap, for example, DevExpress used for CSS theme the Bootstrap framework. So if in the Bootstrap framework, the class that you use is alert or danger or something like that, or whatever name class that you use for the style, it will use the one that is currently set for DevExpress. So if you have an orange theme, your component will look orange if that's the class that you use. Then if you switch theme, it will take that new theme that you switch to. So basically that's how you do it. And it's really nice because otherwise you have to add more styling properties to your component, but it will catch the one that you use from the current theme in the application, as long as you use the Bootstrap classes that DevExpress uses. So, well, so far so good. I think I will need to close the studio to make this show. So let me close all the instances. Let's see. Okay, so let's see how the demo effect will affect me in this time, or maybe it will not. Maybe I'm lucky. So, okay, so now that we have basically export the code that we wanted as a item template, I should be able to delete this, and I guess I will not for the moment. I will just add another one, and it will have the same name. So that's something that there are some properties that you need to replace that there are in the in Microsoft documentation. I will try to find a link in the meantime to put it here. But let's add the first let's add the component. I mean the property editor, and hope that this works. So everyone close your fingers. I guess it will show because it's loading the templates, and it means that there is something new there. So yeah, we have it here. So I will delete the other one now that I know that it's there. So you see that how much time we save. So now every time that you want to create your own custom property editor, instead of having to go check the documentation, paste all the files and rename them and put it in the same place, you can just do something like this. Add item. And we have this funny name that I set for this. So let's rename something to something different. And see, we have all the code that we created before. There are some ways that you can make that replacement to work in the code, because right now, for example, here is still called input render. So if you add some, I think it's like $sign to it, it will be replaced with the new name that you set in the when you add the new item. In this case, it's not being renamed, so I just need to rename this to my property editor. And after that, everything is fine. If we check here, we have the same structure, and it should compile and show. The only thing that right now, what I need to do is basically go to my domain object and change the name, because the attribute that I set was using a different name. So in here, instead of custom string property editor, is this one. Just let me try to find the documentation for item template, so you know what to replace. So you don't have that you need to rename one part of the render. See while that is loading. Let's see if I can find it before the application. What happened? Let's see. It's not named like that. The render is named like that. The name is still the same, because now that I think about it, if I go here, the name that I need to set is this one. So that stayed the same. So I replace it for nothing. We just need to run it again. And let's see, maybe I can find the information before this starts again. Oh, okay, I found the link. So see, it's working. Basically, the same components that I created before is showing. So to complete this, basically you will need to add some tags to your code, but the tags will break your code in the end. So you need to make sure that your code is running, submit it to the source controller, like do a commit. And then, for example, see this. If you want to replace namespaces with the name of the current project that you are, because in this case, the namespaces, for example, let's go to the property editor. Here is within this project name and then this namespace. That can be replaced automatically for you with the namespace of your current solution at the moment, or your project at the moment. But for that, you will need to add some placeholders, basically. So let me show you the documentation. This is from the official Visual Studio documentation. So if you want to replace the namespace, for example, you just add this and you will use your current project namespace as the namespace of that file. And the same for like file names, class names, you can use the same trick. There are placeholders for that. So you just pick the ones that you want, and then all of that can be renamed automatically for you. For example, if you don't want to name it input model, but you just want the model suffix, you will do something like this. Let's see, that's here. So instead of, so if you want this to take the name that you said when you add the item from the add new item window, you will have to do something like this. And this will be replaced for the file name. But when you do this, your code breaks. So you need to make sure it works. Then you replace with the placeholders and then you export. So that's good to have this on the source controller because you make sure that it's running and then you will have to replace for these placeholders. And there is no other way to do that. So you will just have to suffer through it. And that's it for this demo. So I will just put that information in the chat. So everyone has it. So that's demo number 2.